Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to PSGL Season 26. We are at round number 8 already. Time does fly when you're watching some great racing. We are here at the final new track on the calendar in Hanoi for the Vietnam Grand Prix, Vietnamese Grand Prix, whatever you like to call it. My name is Jess, and joining me as per usual, we've got Dan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, actually. I had a late start, so that's put me in a good mood for the race today. And hello, everyone. Cannot wait to be joining Jess today to give you the PSGL F2 action from here in the commentary box. So I'm really excited for this one.
And if you were watching last week's race, we saw Dario take his first ever win in PSGL, and what a deserving win it was as well. And we saw a few penalties being added on in the race, which caused Hadler to get P2 on track, and he got driver of the day as well, which was great to see as well. And we saw Faz scoring well too, and Toxic Tomato dropping all the way down to P5 due to penalties. When will he get a win without penalties? We'll have to find out. Well, we did it in the Netherlands, but oh, sorry, my throat's going. But we'll see if he does it here in Vietnam. One of the other new tracks. Maybe he's one of the favourites going into this, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm very looking forward to this track, into the unknown for most of these drivers, and a level playing field as well.
Yeah, and well, being a new track on the game, it can also catch some drivers out and also give carnage. So hopefully we don't see too much of that, but we could see a surprise result. And okay, I don't know if you put the track up on screen.
No, not yet, because I'm about to do the standings. But yeah.
Oh right, okay. But we've got some interesting
weather. Just like I'll give you a clue to what the weather is for qualifying. Remember last week's qualifying on how that happened? Yeah, that's what's happening today. But anyway, we have got a few standings to take you a moment in time. So obviously Rafa left us a few races ago, but he is still top of the standings, and his old teammate Toxic Tomato has reached the top of the standings on level points now. So if he gets points in today's race, then he is going to be on course to definitely in the lead of this championship. We've got Faz in second place in the standings. We've got Greeny LFC in third, Will in fourth, Dario in fifth, Hadler in sixth, Lakitu in seventh place, Big C in eighth, CC Brain in ninth, and Name Changer in 10th place. And then we got Ski Van with 11 points, Pat with 7 points, Benny on 5 points, and Motti on 5 points as well, Kurat on 2 points, Compassion on 1 point, and Golonen with 1 point to his name. And I believe Luke still yet to score. And then we look at the constructors, because I keep forgetting to do that every race. So Williams is leading the constructors by quite some margin with 137 points. Then we've got Renault with 80 points. Whoa. And Ferrari in third with 54 points. Mercedes in fourth with 39 points. I will actually give you a little bit of a hint in a minute as to who has joined Big C in the Mercedes today. We've got AlphaTauri in fifth with 36 points. Alfa Romeo in sixth, 35. Seventh, Haas, 34. Eighth, McLaren, 24. Ninth, Red Bull, 14 points. And 10th, Racing Point with 9 points. So we're going straight to the track then as we start qualifying, and look at that weather. Like last week, Dan.
Well, we are pretty familiar with wet qualifyings in PSGL F2. Of course, Rafa was known as the wet god of F2, but of course he's not here. So it's all up in the air as to who will get pole in Vietnam today. And it will also be interesting to see what setups everyone will be running as they start and finish their laps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it was a dry race, probably having a dry setup would be the best, but you would be compromised on your qualifying and probably bin it as well. So very, very tricky to understand as well. But we've seen some races in their tiers before where it was raining for the race and they find it a lot more difficult balancing that setup. So it's just trying to get to grips with a bit more. A lot of people on the engines already very quickly, so a few people on a mixture of tyres as well, as a few people starting their lap. So we got one other person that we've got to mention starting their lap, and I think he's just lost his end plate. So not a good start there as he heads towards turn one, but Bugatti, last season's F2 champion, has made the jump from F3 this season to F2, replacing Midnight, who unfortunately has quit league racing altogether, like Rafa is, which is a bit of a shame, but at least we've got a legend in PSGL F2 and also in the Formula Performance League as well. Come us join the ranks in F2. Now, it's a new game, and obviously he hasn't raced these drivers since F1 2019, so he's got a lot of work to do, and probably he's going to be in a lot more pressure, but it's going to be hard for him because he's not going to be in the championship, I don't think, because the gap is so massive between him and Toxic Tomato, as points do get reset once you join another league. But I'm excited to see what this man can do in the league he was in last season.
Absolutely, and now that he has joined the F2 grid, that makes it 3 former F2 champions, 1 current F2 champion in that group as well. The other 2 being, of course, Toxic Tomato, or I guess it's just Shizu Tomato now, and then, of course, the man in 19th right now, PR1 Will, or Will Murdoch, as he might be better known. So that makes 3 champions of Formula 2 going to be all duking it out in one grid, and I'm excited to see how Bugatti can cope against all these new quick guys coming into the league, and see if he can really prove that he deserved that F2 seat all along.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got to say, I'm liking this rivalry, and I think every week we're going to see who's the better F2 champion in this grid. It's like, I remember, I think it was F1 2012 or something in real life, where we saw quite a lot of F1 champions. We saw Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton, Michael Schumacher as well, all on the same grid. So we're kind of in a similar situation here, as we got Dario, last week's race winner, on pole position with a 150.0. He's on the wet tyres though, so I'm expecting a lot of people to go a bit faster on those intermediates, including Toxic, but he's on a 151.2 right now. But depending on how long this race is going to last and what the weather's going to be like in the race, they can go on how many laps they want in a qualifying, because of the amount of tyres they've got to use in this qualifying session with the wets, because they only have, I think, about 2 or 3 inters and 2 wets to use, so they don't have a lot compared to if they go on a dry session. So they've got a lot of things to consider.
Well, of course, they actually do have a benefit, the wet tyres, that you don't really have to necessarily do 1 lap then come in. You can run multiple laps, and they'll actually get better as you put more laps in. So we're going to see a lot of guys over fueling on their runs, and keep on pushing even after their laps are through, because those wet tyres and intermediates just get better and better. You see Iamotti has just gone 1.2 seconds quicker on his second lap on the on the wet tyres. He was the first driver to put in a lap, now goes 4th fastest. So as we do get further into the session, the times will come down, but it'll be interesting to see which tyre ends up triumphing.
Yeah, I think it's getting a bit worse than what I've seen in the start of qualifying, but probably because we were in the pits when we first, well, me and Dan were in the pits. She didn't see it because we were on the standings, but, you know, it is getting a bit worse. So I think if they were on the inters now, they will probably be in a much better position as well. And we have 1 reserve here tonight. I think Luke couldn't make it tonight in qualifying. So we have Chapalili in the McLaren making his F2 debut. He's a reserve. So most of the reserves we had this season have made a jump to full-time seats. So before we know it, Chapalili could be full-time in the future. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see how he does. He's probably going to be a lot less pressure into what Bugatti is, because this is Chapalili's first time in an F2 seat, I believe. I don't think he was in F2 last season, was he?
No, I don't recall him being on the F2 grid, but I am really good friends with Lucas. Of course, that won't lead me to bias. I will remain impartial throughout the entire stream and every race that he is here. But I do know him really well, and he works really hard. He is known for his spin, so hopefully we don't see any of that today. He's been leaving and joining throughout the session so far, with 8 minutes so far in the session. So I do hope
he's fine now.
I hope that doesn't spell trouble for him with his internet, though, later on, like Big C was suffering with last week.
Yeah, Big C did have some connection issues last week, unfortunately, which costed him a few positions in the race, and he got involved in some incidents as well. There was only 1 incident that was reported to the stewards by the man himself, Mr. Big C, and it was about, I think, a penalty that he got, or warning, I can't remember which one it was, and he got his penalty removed due to that, because I thought it was a little bit unfair, I've got to say, so it was deserving to be removed. So that meant Big C got some points, and that meant that there was only one race where he didn't get points, which was the Netherlands. So he just wants to keep getting more points this season, more than not, really, because getting no points is not a good feeling to have. And technically, he's the number 1 driver now that Midnight's gone. So he's going to do a lot to try and help his teammate get used to F2 again, I've got to say. But I'm sure Big C will live up to his name, as he's also one of the drivers that in his F2 league that's in the Trovo League with their esports team as well. So it's nice to see him up there as well, helping his team out. Obviously, he manages the team and the Trovo League, and he's also driving in it as well. So that was a nice surprise to wake up to one morning when the lineups were announced for all the teams. So make sure you check that out on Wednesday, commentated by Gio, who's in the chat, and we've got Mark as well, Gaming Alamonda. The Alamonda now, PSGL legend himself. So make sure you tune in on the Trovo Bruto Democracy channel on Wednesday night. But yeah, Big C in 12th position on the intermediate tyres. Faz is on pole at the moment. He did really well last week, and I think he's looking to score big things this week with Will, previous F2 champion, in 2nd place.
Absolutely. Faz had a really good week. Last time out, he had a lap 1 incident, which pretty much sent him to the rear of the field, and he ended up coming through the grid and then took a podium. So I am really excited to see what he can do around Vietnam today. He was a bit of an unknown coming into the season, but he really has proved himself to be a contender. He's 3rd in the championship right now, and that soon will be 2nd once he overtakes Rafa, because Rafa's not going to get any points. But someone who's just posted a lap, Bugatti in 4th, and that is a statement.
Yeah, that is a statement that he's in F2 for a reason, and he did not too bad when he was in F3 for the time being, but we know he belongs in this tier, really, and he's just showing why he's good in these wet conditions, as we've got 2 people going side by side in actual qualifying. That's not meant to do that, but one thing I've got to say, which I think you can vouch me on this, trying to move out the way when people on their laps is very, very tricky around here. You probably have to slow down a bit more as well, so I think we could see a few people getting reported if they get blocked on their laps, and it's quite narrow as well. It's quite uniquely designed around this track. It was actually designed by Herman Teich in collaboration with the Hanoi authorities, and it's located next to the National Stadium as well. So in a way, there's some elements of the track which I like, some of the elements of the track I don't like. It's kind of like a Marmite track. You sometimes love it, you sometimes hate it. And Sector 3, as Bugatti is going on board with now, it's kind of like Silverstone, Maggots and Beckett, and Japan, the S section as well, USA. It kind of reminds me of that as well. There's a lot of similarities, but my question I've got to say, I think there was one question that was just said in the chat as well. Is this going to be a race which produces many battles in real life as well? And in league racing, I wonder which is going to come out on top, league racing battles around here or in real life. We'll have to wait and see, though.
Yeah, well, one thing that I do know is that it can definitely spell troubles for some drivers. I had my race in PSGL on Thursday. I'm not going to say which division because it's a little bit embarrassing, but yeah, it was there were a load of thrills and spills. I didn't have a good race in the end, but I won't go into too much detail about it. But you are right, it is very tricky to get out of the way on this circuit. You can actually see the pit entry unleashes you right onto the racing line. So if you don't see someone coming on your mini-map, really, you could be in a sticky situation in that regard. And also through the final sector, pretty much you can't get out of the way without going into a wall. So a lot of these guys will have trouble with that, but knowing these lads being all experienced in league racing and having that capability, they can definitely get out of the way of each other.
Yeah, I'm almost certainly they can do that. There are certain elements where there's runoff areas where you could just slow down and just let people through as well, especially if you're on an in-lap. And the pit lane is going to be quite interesting as well because it's kind of blind in a way. So if people miss that, then that's going to cause a few issues as well. As I think the only person on the wet tyres is Amotti in 8th, and it is getting lighter on the circuit. So I think if you're not on the intermediate tyres, then you're going to lose a chunk of time going in to the final part of qualifying. We're almost heading to the calm before the storm, as it were, right now, is Pat in 6th place. He got one of his first points of the season last week, making Racing Point climb up the standings just a little bit. They're not that far behind Red Bull, so they could be a battle for last place. I was in last place in one of the leagues, I'm not going to say what, and that was not a good experience, and Pat is just going to make sure that he kind of likes this track in a way. A lot of people are not a big fan of this track, but it's trying to find a way to improve their knowledge of it, to try and get some good position on the grid. And for the ones that are taking part in the Trobo League, Vietnam is one of the tracks. So if they're probably going to be racing it here and in the Trobo League as well. So this is, I think the team bosses for those teams will be watching those PSGL drivers that are taking part in that league as well, and seeing what they're capable of, and they can make up the best decisions on who to pick for their teams for that particular round. But that's ages away, I've got to say. But yeah, who's been your standout so far in qualifying? Who's been your biggest surprise?
Well, one of the drivers I do have to say is Bugatti, because it would be a lot of pressure coming from a lower division. Everyone's kind of sizing you up, they might think that he might not be too competitive coming from F3, but he really has cemented himself in that top 5 at the moment. He's not even too far off of Faz at the moment, and a lap that's 1 minute and 49 seconds, is you're bound to lose a lot of time, but he didn't do that, so he's done really well in that regard. I've also got to say Cedric, who I was about to say is in 5th right now, he's just gone up to 2nd position. He's doing really well at the moment, but no one is touching Faz at the moment. Still got about a 3/10 gap, almost 3.5 tenths to the nearest competitor to him, so he's doing really well. And now Kurax, getting really close to Faz. And there goes Dario. Jeez, a 148.9.
9 tenths quicker than his previous best. That is insane right now. He is the first person to go into the 148. So if you're not in the track right now, or if you're not about to get on the track, then these guys definitely need to get a move on, because Dario is on the money right now, and Tomato has gone even quicker by 4 attempts. He needs to be quicker than his championship rival. The nearest championship rival in the standings is Faz, and he was on pole for a slight second, whereas Tomato said, if anything he can do, I could do better. So Tomato on pole by a few attempts, Dario in 2nd place, Faz in 3rd, Kurat in 4th, and I have to say, Faz's last pole, he usually gets pole positions in the wet conditions, and I think most of the Renault poles have been in the wet. I think the last time was in Hungary for Faz, and last week we saw Lakitu get pole position in Italy as well. So I think it's the way that they work together, and as well as possibly the setup as well. I believe Faz is going to go for one final lap. Yeah, if he is on another push lap, you're not going to use that much ERS in these wet conditions. So he comes towards the final corner now. A little bit of a slide there. I don't think he's going to improve. It actually does improve, actually, to P3. So that slide might have costed him pole position. And Will, I don't know why the laps are not popping near the bottom of the screen for you, but Will, gets on pole position with a 148.0. I mean, times are improving thick and fast here as the track conditions improve.
Yeah, we got Dario just coming through the final sector at the moment. He's got Kurax just ahead of him, also on a lap. So Dario, he was on pole for a short amount of time. That was soon snatched away from him. But here he goes across the line. There it is on 147.9. He's the first driver into the 1 minute 47s. So Dario using that momentum from last week with a really good run there into provisional pole position. And we've only got just a little bit less than a minute to go in this session. So if you're not on a lap, you really do have to get a move on.
Yep, you do really, and there's a few people in the pit. Cedric, unfortunately, has just gone, and he's not going to have time to improve as his car is being wheeled into the pit lane. I think a majority of these guys on our older lap tyres compared to the others. The ones that are not are Motti, Lakitu's just gone up into 5th place with a 148.3. He could still improve. He was purple sector 3. So I wonder how much time he's lost in the other sectors. It is still possible for him. He's got enough ERS to go for one final lap. I think he's going to be one of the last people to set a lap. Now, they has 23 corners around this circuit. And I think we've got a few of the Red Bulls about to start their final laps as well. So the checker flag has dropped. So let's see who's going to get pole position today. The first person to cross the line will be Faz, as he's benefiting from less fuel, cleaner air, not much slipstream though. But let's see. Can he get pole at the moment? Yes, he can. 1:47.3. That's insanely quick for him right now. Who's next across the line? I believe it is Shapalili. Yes, it is Shapalili. We've got Dario, I believe, on a lap next straight behind, or it might be the other Alfa Romeo or Compassion, but we'll find out in a second. Shapalili's going slowly, so I don't think he's going to improve. What about Compassion? Now he comes across the line. P8 for him. And we've got the other Alfa Romeo, who's, I think, going into the pits. Dario, yep, he is going into the pits. What about Will as he goes through the DRS Rev turn 10? I'm just trying to find his other teammate, which is Skivan, who is... Oh, he comes across the line. P4. That was a surprise for him. That's very, very impressive. We got more people improving on their lap times. Tomato goes on pole position, beats Fad this time by 3/10 of a second. We got one of the Mercedes, I think Bugatti. He doesn't improve either. Well, he does improve, but not improve on position into P8 already. More people are setting lap times by the dozen. A few people have binned it on the final corner, so they're not going to have time. And Greeny just hit the wall there, so I don't think he is going to improve. But yeah, Tommaso at the moment on provisional pole position. What a lap from him.
Absolutely, but we got a couple more drivers to cross the line yet. Greeny LFC going 5th fastest, the man I'm watching right now. The last driver on a run at the moment is Iamotti at the moment. Can he go into the top 5? Maybe on pole. It's 4th fastest for the Williams driver. So I believe pole and his teammate in 4th. So very good performance from the Williams team.
I've got to say, if they want to keep their constructors battle, going, so it was Will that got it the last seconds. Where as soon as we went to the loading screen, Will just got pole position. So he timed it just right there, being the last person to cross the line. The track is where it's going to be the most grippiest. And he's got pole by 1/10 of a second. So we've got Will, Tomato, Faz, Emotti, Dario, Greeny, Skivan, Lakitu, Pat, then Hadler. Then we got Name Changer, Bugatti, Compassion, Big C, Kurax, Benny, Cedric, CC Brain, and Shapalili in 19th. Unfortunately, Golonen has not set a lap time. I don't think he's got a quali ban, so maybe he just wasn't confident with the track in itself. So probably he is just wanting to start last on purpose. Maybe he's saying something that we're not seeing. And I think a relief for a majority of the drivers we can see outside our commentary box window. It is dry.
Absolutely, sunny skies up ahead. It's all completely blue, no clouds in sight. And one thing that wet qualifying did was actually nullify the alternate strategy completely. It's been pretty famous on this game for being very overpowered, and now that everyone has a free choice of tyres, that pretty much, if you're starting outside the top 10, you're not going to have that advantage that you would have had if it was a dry qualifying. So we should see some better racing today. We might not even see the softs at all this Grand Prix. You'd probably go for a mediums to hard or hard to mediums if you're running the alternate strategy. So it will be interesting to see how they get on in this race, and it is also going to be interesting to see who has got the wet setup and who has got a dry one.
We saw that last week. The ones who had the dry setups came through the field like no tomorrow and were able to make moves of nowhere. And everyone who qualified, well, basically everyone, most of the people were on the mediums apart from a few other guys outside the top 10. And I believe Lakitu was on the softs last week. I wonder if they're going to do the same thing as this week. Now, before we go to the formation lap, let's have a quick look at the track. It is 5.6 kilometers long. It has 22 turns originally, but with an extra corner later added to the third sector of the circuit due to safety reasons, making a total of 23 turns. There's 3 DRS zones, one at the start, finish straight, and then one heading towards turn 10 and turn 11. And as you can see, the strategy just popped up on my screen, and we go straight back into some action. And the tyres that we got on offer today, the C4s, which is the soft, C3s, which is the mediums, and the C2s, which is the hard compounded tyres. A few people being disqualified already tucked up, but we're going to see, as we thought, as we predicted, most people going for the medium tyres, except Greeny, that's on the softs, Skivan on the hard compounded tyres, Cedric on the hards, Gonanin on the hards, and Shapalili on the hards, and CC Brain on the soft. So if they were to go on the medium compounded tyres, if I just get my strategy notes up, lap 11 to 13 would be the pit window for the hard tyres. If they were to go on the softs, which will be the case for Greeny and CC Brain, starting on the softs, lap 7 to 8 is where they would pit for the hard compounded tyres. So the mediums, they'll have the most benefits. The crossover point will probably potentially be laps 9 and 10 here today. But, you know, I don't know who's going to win, but due to the fact Tomato won in Zandvoort on one of the newest tracks on the circuit, I think my money for the win has got to go for this man, Toxic Tomato, well, Shazoo Tomato now. What do you think?
I definitely think he has a really good chance of putting in a good performance today, but I've also got to put some of my money onto BRT Faz. He's had a lot of momentum coming into this Grand Prix, and all Tomato's had a spin. Luckily, no damage on the formation lap, because he would have chopped off a bit of his wing there. But hopefully that's not a sign of things to come in the race. He's certainly got heat into those tyres, but I would definitely put my money on Faz to win, just to be a little bit different from you, because it'd be boring if we both had the same prediction.
Yeah, that is an interesting prediction, I've got to say. And let us know your predictions in the chat. Who you think is going to win, who you think is going to get fastest lap, who you think is going to be the most improved. We'll have to find out as we are about to get started with the session. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this develops. It could be a game-changing for people in the championship. Some people may be out of the championship fight already, but we've got a full grid, and it just goes to show PSGL is growing by the day here as we're about to get the 5 red lights. Phil is on the left, Tomato on the right. Let's go to see who's going to have the cleanest getaway, and it is lights out, and away we go. And a good start from Will. The timing's a glitch a little bit. We got one of the Alfa Romeos dropped all the way down near to the back of the grid, and that's not good. But Toxic Tomato seem to have the cleanest getaway into the lead already of this race. So they all go through the swoop in turn 2 into turn 3. We've got one of the Ferraris going side by side with Will, already heading towards this really tight little chicane here, and a few people losing positions already. But let's see, we've got Will, he is planting, he wants to get P2 again from Tomato. He's lost 3 positions already, that's not good, whereas Tomato's had the most to gain from this situation, as we've got, I think Benny dropped it all the way down into last place, but he is ghosted, and I don't think he could join back in the session. And do not forget, you're not allowed to rejoin if you can't get back in the race. Meanwhile, Greeny at LFC's made a huge move heading towards turn 9 and into turn 10. Well, it's a little kink of turn 10, and Greeny is in the lead, but let's see what Tomato could do into turn 11. He's going to stay behind for now, but Greeny is your race leader for the time being. Tamara in second, Will in third, and Dario in 4th position.
Well, Greeny took advantage of his soft tyres being completely fresh. He didn't put in a lap on them in qualifying. Now, what he's got to do is streak away from Toxic Tomato just to build a gap as much as possible so that once he pits, he won't be vulnerable later on in the Grand Prix. They're all shuffling around in the back, trying to make up the early positions. But I think we've got a couple fights going on through the field. They're all pretty close compacted. I think Gonana might have had an off somewhere, because he's actually come into the pits now.
5-second penalty.
Oh, no.
That is, I think, quite common around here, because they're getting used to the pit lane speed limiter. I can't remember what the speed limiter is around this circuit, but it's quite tight. It reminds me of Silverstone, where you don't have to wait long to get in, so you've got to react very quickly. So Gonanon goes into the pits to change for his medium compounded tyres, so there he goes, and goes out of the pit lane as well. So timing is still glitchy at the moment. Ski Van's having a battle with the likes of Lakitu and Pat as well. And on around this track, Ski Van is making a record for being the most seasoned driver in PSGL. He's F2. He's been there the longest out of anyone. Previously it was Ollie, but he's not in F2 anymore. It is Ski Van that is now been in F2 the longest out of anyone. So let's hope that Ski Van's going to make do of this and get a really good result. He is doing well on those hard compounded tyres right now in SIP, but he's got that really catching up on those softer medium compound of tyres. Someone actually just gone off, and I think I probably jinxed one of the Racing Point drivers, so I do apologise about that.
Yeah, it was Pat going really deep into the hairpin that allowed for Kurax to just slip by. But Skivan doing really well as he's the leading hard runner. And if he can just keep ahead of these guys behind him who are going to be racing to get past him, he could be in a really good position later on in the Grand Prix when he's going to be on the medium tires and they'll probably be on the hards. Oh, CC Brain's gone into the back of name changer there. Luckily, no wing damage for the Ferrari car, but they are all getting a bit racy further back in the field.
Yeah, they are, and that's very, very good to see. Obviously, a track which is really hard to overtake, as Will has lost yet another position from last week's race winner, IGK Dario. So that is not good at all, and I've just had a word from the chat that Benny's internet crashed, sadly. So unfortunately, yeah, that is why he's had a few problems at the moment. So what a shame for him, but hopefully he could bounce back next week going into Japan, which is the next track. Around this PSGL Season 26 calendar, which I've been a big fan of as well. Greeny's had a bigger getaway now, but he's on the soft tyres. Just waiting to around lap 7 and 8, where the tyres are going to start to when Greeny will probably start to lose it just a little bit more. So watch out for them closely. Then watch out for Tomato, as he's probably potentially going to be eyeing out for a move pretty soon.
Right now, the one man making a move at the moment is PR1 Will, trying to get to the back of Dario with the DRS. He was streaking at him, and now there's all changes down the order side by side right now. And there's big damage for, I believe, name changer there. I had to cut myself off, but CC Brain did get by Bugatti. He's had a really good start as well, getting into the top 10, and Bugatti, they're pretty seasoned F2 veterans. They just had a nice
name changes hit the wall. Name changes hit the wall. That is unfortunate for him. So, and someone's gone off, and that is Cedric, who had a very good qualifying as well, and he's dropped way down the order. So a lot of people making mistakes around here, which is really, really sad to see. He's got a 5 seconds time penalty as well, does name changer. So they go in for, I wonder what tyres are going to go on. Maybe the hard compounded tyres would be the best situation to be on at the moment, but we will only find out as the session goes on, as I believe Cedric goes on the mediums, and name changer, he goes on to, let me have a look, he goes on to the mediums as well. And the biggest gain is, I've got to say, if I get my position changes up, Greeny's gained 5 positions, Dario has gained 2, Kuratz has gained 8, CC Brain's gained 9. So both the Ferrari drivers are doing a lot better on this game than in real life, I have to say.
Yeah, well, with those soft tyres, they are going to have supreme grip over the other ones, and they've certainly made good use of that. They've not been slow in that regard, and even more positions being made up. CC Brain getting by Pat, who's hanging on in there, trying to hold it up the inside. Meanwhile, up ahead, there's Kurax trying to go up the inside into the hairpin of Skivan, the hard runner, but now Skivan has no defense, and CC Brain does manage to get by. So nice fight going on throughout the field.
Yeah, great to see, of course. Don't forget that we are approaching the pit window pretty soon for the soft runners. Lap 7 to 8 is where you'll expect the soft runners to go in for the hard tyres, which should make it to the end of this Grand Prix. I think it's around about 21, 22 laps is how long the hard tyres, according to Pirelli, are expected to last as they all go through the sweeping hander of turn 22. Now into turn 23, going towards the final corner there. Skivan must be in a sandwich right now. But he's not the one leading the train. It's Kurax that's leading the train. And Kurax, I think, will be pretty happy with his position. But he can't make too many mistakes going into turn 2 and 3, as he does go off a little bit. And so does Skivan as well. But I know the tyres around here is quite hard to manage. So it is understandable. But here we go. CC Brain getting a very good run heading towards, I can't remember what turn it is. I need to get my track map up in a second, but going into the roundabout section, here we go. CC Brain to the right hand side. Can he cover him off? I think he's been pushed off the circuit a little bit there. IGK Pat is going to go into this and say, you know what, if I can't get that position, if they can't get that position, so I can. As we got another yellow flag, and that's set to 1. I think that was just someone moving out the way. I'm not entirely sure, but as they now go just past turn 9, CC Brain and Skivan now going side by side into turn 10. CC Brain gets the move done. Pat is probably potentially going to get a double overtaken. How did he not hit Skivan? I do not know. But brilliant stuff from Pat and CC Brain's respectable racing from these guys heading into set 3 now.
tyres, 3 different chassis and 3 different engines. Really nice to see all of them guys fighting it out, and all Skivan with a bad run through the first part of the S's section. That's going to open the door for Pat to get right onto the rear of him. You can already see how much he's dropping off from CC Brain. He's almost 1.5 seconds out from the Ferrari car, so this is really going to leave him vulnerable to the Racing Point car, and he's pretty much a mobile chicane at this point for the medium runners behind, all stuck behind this hard runner Alpha Tauri, but he's doing a stellar job defending and holding these guys off. Meanwhile, up ahead, CC Brain still trying to get a move on Kurax. He's really reeled him in like a fish.
A fish? That's the first time I've ever heard of it, like a fish like that. But something I might use in my commentaries from then on, yes. But Will doing well to hold on to that train as well. The gap is starting to increase a little bit. Greeny is already having a race of his own at the moment, 5.2 seconds. And we could see Dario and Toxic having a battle later on in the race. Meanwhile, this is going to be absolutely intense between these drivers to manage. Just past the roundabout section now, Pat is looking for more opportunities to pounce. Look at the DRS at the moment, 55%, whereas Skivan's on 20%. Skivan could be potentially a little bit more vulnerable compared to IGK Pat as he goes towards turn 11 and 12, as CC Brain also trying to make a move on Kurats, but couldn't quite do it. So the Racing Points, they could be potentially under threat from losing positions, but I've got to say, they could be on for some good points here. And if this carries on, Red Bull could be last in the Constructors after tonight, and that's not what Red Bull wants.
Yeah, well, the Racing Point cars seem to be dark horses in the races. They're always up there with the pace, but they sometimes can't produce the performances, which is why they are not too strong in the championship at the moment. They are really turning a new leaf here tonight, 6th and 8th. Really good points haul for the team at the moment. Bugatti tried to get past Skivan around the outside at the hairpin, but he couldn't get by. There was no room at the end, but he can definitely pounce and get into 9th position, solidifying himself in the points paying positions in the top 10.
Yeah, points are crucial. Don't forget, it is not like the real F1 where it's scored like 25 points. The winner gets 16 points, second place gets 12 points, third place gets 10 points, and then it's 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 down to 1 singular point. Meanwhile, CC Brain makes the move on Kurax, and I think Kurax was just a little bit late to react there, and CC Brain is now up into P6 on those softer tyres. But watch out for the crossover point now. CC Brain is going to be struggling. Kurax is going to be fighting back soon, so watch out for that. And if CC Brain starts to lose it on the rears, that is where Kurax can respond and just wait just a little bit and then try and go for the move into this trickier left-hander coming up right now. But seems to me CC Brain is holding on, which is great to see.
Yeah, right now I'm just watching the fight for P10 at the moment. Iamotti tried to go around the outside of Skivan, and he is really getting racy here, trying to go into the third sector. He can't get by, but Bugatti moved up into another position up again. And I think that's Cedric around and with damage again. He's just retired on circuit. You're not supposed to do that in PSGL, so he could see himself with a penalty in that regard because that can bring out a safety car. So hopefully he learns from this and doesn't do it again.
No, I think there was a few people in the other tiers that got a penalty as well for retiring on track, and it was said in the stewards briefing repeatedly, do not retire on track, and there's still people that don't listen. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're about to race tonight, do not retire on track, no matter what you do. But anyway, yellow flag in sector 2 as someone is going into the pits. Oh no, I think it might be coming out actually. That might have been Cedric. So to see that problem that has caused for some of the drivers, because that car is ghosted, that might be an issue for distractions maybe, potentially, as they try to defend from other cars as well. So hopefully the car just gets rid of really, really soon, I've got to say. But we're seeing now the gap start to form with Dario now. 5 tenths behind Toxic. Will 5 tenths behind Dario now. We've seen in Italy how the DRS trains stop people from overtaking. I think we're seeing it in Vietnam as well, unfortunately, except if you are the one without DRS. But Greeny is in a world of his own right now, 5.11 seconds. And it's dropping a little bit, but that gap is going to be allowing him to go ahead onto those hard tyres when he pits very, very soon onto those tyres. Bugatti in 9th place. He wants more than 2 points, I've got to say, in this race. Now chasing the racing point of Pat, newly into the F2 Pat versus the veteran of F2, fighting for this position as well. Didn't get the good start that he would have liked, but he's enjoying racing here at the moment, and it's nice to see him battle once again, just like the old PSGL days.
Absolutely. Now with the DRS, he is going to be able to close up the pack. He looks a bit too far back to perhaps make a move into turn number 1, so he's not going to use any of his ERS just to save that up. They are pretty similar on the levels at the moment. Now getting a run through turn number 2, you want to be careful to not run off the circuit because you can be penalised for that. But now Bugatti looking closer than ever, and he can just nail the exit here, which he got onto the curb a little bit, and he actually lost some time to Pat, so he probably won't make a move through the roundabout section, but definitely into the hairpin is where that Mercedes and that Mercedes engine is going to be deadly.
Yeah, it is definitely. It may be that Bugatti may, or Pat may not have the super straight line speed, so we're going to watch to see who has the better straight line speed, and I think at the moment it is Bugatti, because you can see the way that he's catching up to Pat on this straight line in turn 9 and into turn 10, and I think Bugatti's going to get the better run going into the start of turn 11 and 12. Let's see Bugatti, and Pat closes him off there, and again just a slight touch there, but luckily no harm done, and Bugatti has to be forced to stay in P9 on track at this stage. But don't forget, penalties could come into play at this stage of the race. We saw that last week as Compassion unfortunately has retired from this race. Haven't spoken much about him this week, but unfortunately he haven't had the best of luck. He has scored one singular point, but that's it. And Tomato, he's pitting early. I thought the soft runners would have pitted at this time, but no, Tomato just wants to get the undercut, I'm presuming. I'm a bit shocked. This could work well in Greeny's favour if Greeny's stock goes the way as it planned. I was not expecting Tomato to pit as early as he did. I thought the pit window for the mediums is around about lap 11 to 13, so that is way too early, but we shall see how Tomato does. I guess he wants to be in the same strategy as Greeny so he can fight for the race win, but at what cost?
Well, I've actually just watched him in that pit stop. He got a wing change, so he must have got some damage somewhere along the circuit, and he couldn't continue. He would have been too slow, and that really probably did hold up Dario, Will, and Pat a little bit. And I think Greeny and CT Brain might want to think about a pit stop soon, because without putting a lap in qualifying, they can actually extend them about 2 more laps, maybe, I would say. So probably about this lap or next lap is going to be the Ferrari car's sweet spot, and with a 3.9 second gap to Dario and everyone behind, and Gononen retires in the pits. That is quite sad to see. He's been beaten up this season. He's not had a good season so far, and I do feel for Gononen at the moment.
He definitely has had a season to forget, really. Most of the season has been DNF for him, and you know, I always keep saying every week he could try his best for the next race, and he sometimes does not. So I'm not going to say anything this week on, and you know, maybe, yeah, I'm not going to say anything, because otherwise bad things will happen to him next week. But anyway, Greeny goes into the pits for the hard tyres, as where does Tomato come out in relation to him, as he's already just at the edge of centre field. I think Greeny could have the advantage here, because don't forget, before the pit stops, the gap between him and Tomato was around about 5 seconds. So here we got Toxic going towards the final corner now, and we got Greeny, who is just ahead. Don't forget, they don't have to take the full line when you come out of the pit lane. So Tomato, I'm just looking to see the gap between. Tomato's already getting past. Well, Kuats has got past him. Interestingly, Kuats on the softs. Is he meant to do that? I'm guessing he might have had a front wing change, but...
And he actually didn't get a wing change, so I'm quite confused why he went onto the soft tyres here. He might have made a mistake, he might have misclicked it. That can happen sometimes, or he could just be committing to a 2-stop. Why not try something different? But it might not work out in his favour. Someone else who came to the pits was Chapelele at the moment, the FRL driver, of course, representing that team. They tried to qualify for the Trovo GP, but unfortunately they couldn't do so. He also had a wing change, and now he's on the medium tyres, trying to extend them as long as they can. And now he's right on the back of a name changer at the moment, who will have to make a pit stop. Greeny LFC and Hadler coming to blows a little bit there. Greeny LFC squeezing his way past the Haas driver, yet to make a pit stop in this race.
Yep, Hadler, I think, is wanting good things to happen, I think, because I think he's trying to get no penalties, because that's what he did last week. I think it was about 8th or 7th before penalties, and then boom, he went to P2. So, you know, he's looking for other people to make mistakes and get more penalties. But it's a lot harder to get penalties around here, I've got to say, because of how narrow the track is. So I think Hadler's just going to rely on more people making mistakes more than penalties this week. As Pat, he goes into the pits, he changes and goes on to the hard compound on the tyres he goes, and that will take him until the end of this race. The only people still yet to pit on the soft tyres is the other Ferrari of CC Brain down in 4th place. He may be pitting in the next lap, I think.
Yeah, well, we've still got a fight for the lead going on at the moment. Meanwhile, Chapelele dives up the inside into turn number 1. Will actually couldn't get past Dario into the roundabout section, because Dario actually got DRS on Benny's AI car, which pretty much gave him a free bit of DRS, even though there was no car ahead of him. But Will, with that DRS and ERS usage, he's just been able to close right up to the rear again. So pretty much that gap's been nullified.
Yep, 5 tenths is separated between Dario and Will now, so I wonder if Dario was struggling or if Dario had a bit of damage, I think, as a few people were pointing out. It is impossible to tell with the way the sun is shining around the circuit, but he has lost a bit of time, so maybe he might have a bit of spin, or his tyres, that's probably explained it. He had a little bit of a lock up there going into the penultimate few corners. That might have lost a bit more time and has gained Will an advantage here as well. Both of these guys have won this season, as well as Toxic, and the only other guy who obviously left the league is Rafa. Those are the only 4 to have won a race this season. No one else has got into that race winning territory in F2 this season, and CC Brain is the final soft runner to pit, but he's going on a different strategy compared to his teammate. He goes on to the mediums.
I was actually talking about this with another driver in F1, that you can, if you take it to about lap 11 or lap 12, you can actually make the some soft to medium tyres work. So CC Brain probably wasn't going to be in the points after his pit stop because, you know, everyone would have been able to have fresher tyres. But now that he's extended this stint, he's going to try something new. He's in 11th position right now, and there's still cars ahead of him that are yet to pit. So he could really be in a good position later on in the Grand Prix, and won't have too much effect on the tyres. He will probably be in the range of about 70%, so he'll definitely be on the cusp of a puncture. But if he could just manage them well, he can take those right to the end and have a huge advantage.
Yeah, that would be amazing for him as well. And I've got to say, I think CC Brain is probably going to be relying on a safety car as well. But yeah, I know F1 drivers could do it, so it'll be interesting to see how they cope with it in about 15 minutes' time. I think they'll be watching this tier with breath, knowing that CC Brain is doing this strategy as well, and seeing if that strategy has paid off. I hope to see it pay off for CC Brain. So obviously the tyres are a lot faster. I'll need to check on our little spreadsheet that we've made how long the tyres last for the mediums, and I think he could do it, you know, 16 laps. Yeah, it could be possible for CC Brain, so he might have made a good strategy call from the Ferrari driver. He made those soft tyres work wonders, but don't forget, these drivers were on wet conditions. If it was a dry qualifying and a dry race, it would have been a lot more trickier. But since the fact they weren't using those tyres for qualifying, they were on fresher tyres. So yeah, CC Brain, he could be more than just a top 10 finisher. He could be more than that if he plays his cards right.
Yeah, and both him and Greeny LFC, of course, went onto those tyres. So maybe Greeny didn't have as much confidence in the soft tyres, and he just thought he had more to lose because he was leading the Grand Prix, and which he still will be doing once everyone else comes into the pits. So, which I actually think they can probably go on the softs as well and take those to the end. But Greeny, he had to go onto the hards. He didn't want to risk it, but CC Brain didn't have much to lose, and Greeny getting past the Emotti, who he was fighting with earlier.
Yeah, well, seeing Motti still yet to pit and Greeny on those fresher, hard tyres as well. And there's a few more laps before the medium tyres start to die for Motti. So we will probably need to going onto those probably hard tyres. Because I don't think the softs will make it to the end with this territory at the moment. So he's going to probably be struggling towards the end there, trying to get grip for those tyres. But he still could be getting points on the cards. You never know. We'll have to wait and see right now. So the question is, out of the ones that still yet to pit, who's going to blink first? Is it going to be Will, Dario, Faz or Bugatti? I think potentially will probably be the one that pits later out of everybody else. As Skivan unfortunately retires from the session, unfortunately, which is sad as he's been in F2 the longest, but hopefully he recovers next week. But yeah, if I was Faz, I'm stuck in this sandwich potentially, and Dario as well. Maybe thinking about pitting would be the best option before Will to probably get the undercut, but Will might stay out due to the fact that you can take the pit lane without taking turn 2, so maybe Will may want to stay out in that regard. So it's hard to tell these days as well, but we're seeing them three still battling, and I think the way this is going, Dan, this could be fighting until the end of the Grand Prix, these three.
Yeah, well, we've seen some good scraps with them already, but what I'm thinking is that they probably won't want to pit for a couple of extra laps, because when you've got the mediums to soft strategy on the table, you're really going to take that instead of going for an undercut and then going on the hard. So I think they would want to stay out a couple more laps. Maybe if they can get a 1 lap over to undercut, then that could be vital for the end of the race, because 1 lap's not going to do too much to the tyres. So it is going to be a bit of mind game from these guys. Faz definitely in a better position in terms of seeing what his rivals are doing. And there goes Dario into the pit, so I was wrong. And he gets a 5-second time penalty. No. That's
going to be game-changing. I mean, literally, for Dario. He was on course to potentially challenge Greeny for the race win. And he's got that 5-second penalty, which he'll have to serve at the end of the race. And I repeat, end of the race, unless he pits again. That could be potentially, you're going to be losing quite a few positions in the championship, and that's not going to do your Alfa Romeo team good, as he's the one who's been scoring the most points in this championship already, as he goes on to the softs. Now, if you think about it, we've got 13 laps until the end of this race. Softs last 12 laps. He's cutting it fine in terms of him going on the soft, but he can make it work. I'm thinking Will could be doing a soft to medium strategy. Will and Faz. By the way that they're stretching their tyres, their medium tyres. It could happen.
Yeah, well, it might the actual weight of the car, less fuel later on in the Grand Prix could. I'm not sure what it would do, but it could help out with the soft tyres being a bit more long into the race. There's more grip on the track as well, so you won't be struggling later on in the Grand Prix for grip once they begin to go off, so it'll be easier to save. So I definitely think he could have made a right call here, and I've just watched Motti have a little bit of a moment coming out of the hairpin. He just kept it out of the wall. That was a good save from the Williams car, but now he's lost a lot of ground to Bugatti just up ahead of him.
And we got Big C as well, battling with the other Williams driver of Tomato. So we got Mercedes versus Williams and another Mercedes versus Williams as well. So, well, that's great to see, isn't it? As both of them are 2 champions. And obviously, Tomato is looking to score another F2 title as Big C goes into the pits for his stop. Obviously, Tomato on the fresher hard, and he makes the move done. Emosi goes into the pits as well. Bugatti stays out. Faz and Will, they go onto the soft tyres. So this is going to be a nail-biting 11 laps of this race with them being on the fresher tyres. They can push as much as they want, but they're going to risk, if they push too much, their tyres could die. So we don't know which strategy is going to work out the best today, but we can see CC Brain ahead of these guys. So is Tomato. The only one yet to pit is Bugatti. Bugatti's having the one most to lose out of all of this, but Greeny's already got a really insane gap. He's going to hope that Tomato and CC Bone or even the soft ones don't catch up to him.
Yeah, well, they've got a pretty big buffer actually back to Greeny, so they will have to make up quite a lot of time, but it's going to be crucial to clear CC Brain and Tomato as much as possible, because they're not going to be gaining on Greeny too much. And actually CC Brain started to come and move on Tomato, and now they're 3 wide down the straight, and Will is going to be the opportunity spot to trying to go around the outside of all of them, side by side into the braking, so trying to make a switchback move, but CC Brain comes out on top there, and that was a great little fray, little skirmish that they had here, and Will was the one that came out ahead of Tomato. Tomato losing 2 positions.
Yeah, that's not good for Tomato. Don't forget, Tomato was starting near the front of the field, 2nd place, and now he's in 5th place at the moment, a net P4. So he is going to be under threat from Will and Faz and Dario and potentially Pat. Actually, no, Pat's on the hard, so maybe a Mossy as well. Here comes Faz with an amazing move on Tomato. Unfortunately, the camera couldn't quite make it justice, unfortunately. But Faz is on a mission. He wants to score points. He scored some great points last week in Italy, in Monza, at the Temple of Speed. He's looking to do the same today, and this could be a really great story if Faz closes up to Tomato in the championship. Maybe first in the championship for Tomato may not be a foregone conclusion just yet. Dario also gets past Tomato, so potentially these softs are here to last the duration, and Tomato is on the basically is the one who's having to suffer for the loss of that. But Will, 8.1 seconds the gap is between him and Greeny. Can he make up 8 seconds in 11 laps? We'll see.
Well, he's certainly got it all to do in this Grand Prix. Now he's got loads of clean air in front of him. He's got no cars between him and the race leader. 7.8 seconds already. Here comes Faz, now switching to the outside of CC Brain. Has he got the run coming into the corner? He's a little bit boxed in here. CC Brain with a good defense, though, and he just maintains a position. But now Faz trying to sneak up the inside again. What a move from Faz as now he gets ahead of the Ferrari car.
Yep, insane. Now 3rd place. Well, a bit of a lock up there. That might have given CC Brain a chance to make the move. And if CC Brain stays with these cars for the majority of this race, the crossover point will be potentially towards the end, and he could be faster towards the end as well. So the podium is not over without any stretch of the imagination for CC Brain, as long as Dario does not get past. Meanwhile, Tomato is in the pits. He's seen potentially that he's slower than the soft runners. He's got a 5-second penalty as well, the same as Dario. So already his race has gone from good to bad to worse for him. But at least he's still going as he's going to the end of the pit lane. I do believe he's got softs waiting for him, which he does. And yeah, it's just, I think he's changed tyres because the hards are just not the fastest right now on track. So he's having to suffer the consequences from it. And he's probably going to go for fastest lap though, isn't he?
Yeah, but outside the top 10, he won't be getting the fastest lap point, of course, with that. But it can actually take away from his closest rivals, so that could be a little bit of an incentive for him. What I would do if I were Faz and Will is not fight it at the moment. They have bigger fish to fry. I'm using a lot of fish references, but I'm just going to go with it in the name of Greeny, of course. And actually, as I say that, Faz is trying to make a move, and Dario also gets by. So they're not listening to me. Hopefully, they don't get held up too much, and we can see a nice fight for the win.
Yeah, we've seen a fight for the win last week. We've seen a fight for the win 2 weeks ago. We may see a 3rd race in a row with this full grid. That'll be insane, won't it? As Tomato is going to make a move on Hadler on those fresher tyres up into P11, so he can still get P10 because he's on 2-lap fresher tyres than Big C. Only time will tell. Will 4 tenths now behind Faz. Faz 5.3 seconds now. The gap is closing ever so slightly. Oh, this is going to be insane. And if Faz pulls this off, I think this will be an amazing win for him. I actually need to check if he's actually won a race, because I thought he did, but he hasn't. The best result he's got was in Belgium, and that was a P2. And unfortunately, the battle for the win wasn't shown on stream because my Elgato decided to die. So we could see an actual battle for the win between Faz and Greeny shown on stream. But Will is not out of the woods either for this race victory. He can get another race win to his name. Dario, unfortunately, may be out of this due to that 5-second penalty. CC Brain, I think, dropped a bit to P5 due to those medium tyres. But 8 laps to go, 4.4 seconds now. But Faz is running out of ERS. Greeny could have the advantage of saving as much ERS that he wants, but with the danger that Faz and Will is catching, as well as the other soft runners.
Yeah, well, with this track being flat out in a lot of sections, it's really tricky to actually save ERS around this circuit, and you can see that Greeny only with 12%, and they're all really struggling with it. Actually, the leader in the ERS race right now is Will at the moment with only 33%, so it's not even much for him, but that gap still closing down, and now we're about to come up to 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix. They gained pretty much almost actually over a second in this lap alone. So, and with those tyres still being in operating temperature, they can definitely close up and fight for the win. It's pretty much inevitable at this point.
Yeah, 3.6 seconds now. He's literally gaining a second per lap. But like we said earlier, penalties can play a factor into whether you're going to be winning or losing. So it is far from over for Greeny. He can still win this if he puts on some great defensive moves. Then he could make sure Faz's tyres go out of the operating window, and Greeny can still take the win. Greeny has been keeping it clean on penalties. Not sure about Faz and Will. I'm not going to check because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but we shall see. They all go through the roundabout section. We can see more battles forming by the minute. Will is now catching up to Faz. Maybe Will could sense if Faz can't challenge for the win. Maybe it's a chance for Will to challenge for the win. We got another yellow flag. That's the other Red Bull of name changer, but enough about that. Meanwhile, Will goes up the right-hand side of Faz. Another swooping move there, and he is up into second place. So unfortunately, I don't think Faz could challenge, but Will is definitely on course to be taking I think it's his second win of the season, and that'll be great with an AlphaTauri car in Vietnam. I thought Tomato was going to win this race, but unfortunately the commentator's curse has slipped through me, unfortunately, and he is not getting the race win. But Bugatti's looking well in 6th place. Amotti as well challenging Bugatti too as well. A lot of lockups from Bugatti though in 6th place, but he's still on with a top 5 finish because obviously Dario has got a 5-second penalty. He's got to be within 5 seconds. It's still possible for the Mercedes driver to get within that window. Will and Greeny now 1.9 seconds. Ooh, I don't want this race to end, you know. Can this be 100%?
Well, if it was 100%, we wouldn't even be close to the finish. So maybe it is better it's a 50% race because this wouldn't be the fight later on in the Grand Prix. But now the gap is just over 1.5 seconds. He can see that Ferrari car just getting bigger and bigger every time he goes through a corner. So he is really catching at a rate of knots. If I were Faz, I would want to just chill behind Will for a little bit, let them two duke it out, and then maybe just come out of nowhere and make a double overtake for the lead if he's that opportunistic.
Yep, Will has got to take so many risks here. He is 1.2 seconds, almost in DRS range. He's not going to get DRS range now. Faz is still within DRS range of Will, but he's in danger of losing it. Dario, 1.7 seconds. The gap, Dario I think is going to say 4th place because the gap is 4.9. Actually, no, he's going to drop down to 5th. So, yeah, CC Brain is potentially going to get 4th place out of all of this. He's just got to try and get that gap within 5 seconds. Dario has got to make sure that he increases it by a little bit more than that. As we got Big C having a battle with Pat going into turn 11 and 12, and Pat has gone off a little bit there. So he's lost a huge chunk of time on those hard tyres. Haller's going to be catching up to him sooner or later as well. And Will is within DRS range of Greeny now. It is hammer time for the AlphaTauri driver.
Well, he's got 6 laps to make a move work, and he's already just under half a second behind Greeny LFC, so he could maybe see a move through the roundabout section. You can already see the difference in grip that the tyres have, and he's actually had a really bad run, Will has there through the first couple of corners, so he's not going to be able to get by this corner, but on the long straight, it's almost inevitable that he'll make an overtake.
Yeah, particularly in the turn 10 DRS range, well, the kink of turn 10 is when the DRS is open, and then that is where Will can definitely challenge. But yeah, he is approaching it now. The DRS is not activated yet, but here we go. Here's the detection point. Will's got to activate it quickly, which he does. This is his opportunity now. Greeny's 12-lap-old hards versus Will 5-lap-old softs. who is going to capitalise on this. Greeny with a great defensive there, but can Will get the switchback? Nope, he does not. And Faz is still within touching distance as well. The more Will fights with Greeny, Faz can still sense an opportunity to win this race. As long as these guys do not get damaged, they should be a-okay. The gap between Dario and CC Brain now 6 seconds. So Dario, unless he got more penalties, Dario is in the cusp of still getting P4 on track. So that'll be possibly a bit too close for comfort, but maybe going on the soft foot is being the best idea for him. We're now going to approach lap 24 now. Will needs to get the move into turn 1, but I don't think this is going to be the best overtaking opportunity at the moment, as he stays behind for now.
Well, through the hairpin, Greeny placed his car perfectly, and Will didn't want to take any risks getting damaged before the race was even over. You can't win it on lap number 23, so he just wanted to stay behind. But now he's closer than before on Greeny, so he's just going to want to catch up and stay right on that rear wing of Greeny LFC. And Faz also still catching in this fight as a big lockup coming out from Greeny. He's beginning to struggle, and Kurax is retired in the pit lane. We've seen a lot of retirements in the pit lane. I don't think we've seen any actual terminal damages. It's either been they've retired in the pit lane, or they've all retired on their own accord.
Yeah, which I've got to say, fair play to these F2 drivers. They're F2 for a reason. Meanwhile, Will made the move quite comfortably there, really. Will is now your race leader for the Grand Prix. Faz is going to challenge Greeny for P2 as well. Greeny is in a red tyre sandwich at the moment, and Faz just wants to capitalise on this so much. Again, we don't know the penalties for Will or Faz, so we don't know who's going to take this win, but Will's going to try and increase that gap for Greeny LFC to make it harder for Faz to potentially snatch that win from Will, the season 23 F2 champion. The battle of the F2 champions, Will is winning it at the moment, with Bugatti in second and Tomato in third. So we are seeing the oldest F2 champion winning that battle, and the newest one right in the middle of that. So that should be very, very intriguing, to say the least. And Faz just not getting the jump on Greeny LFC at the moment. Greeny P2 could still be his.
Well, Faz just needs to clear Greeny as soon as possible if he wants to fight with Will. Those two are equal on the tyres, so he's going to have no real advantage other than his own pace. So he needs to get by Greeny as soon as possible. Will might be sandbagging a little bit on the straights just so that he can give Greeny the DRS and make it harder for Faz to get by. And now Dario has entered this fray as well with a 5-second time penalty to come, but that probably won't stop him from getting his hands dirty and getting involved in the fight.
Yeah, I never thought, when I was preparing for this stream today, I never thought the softs would come into the equation at the end of this race. I mean, this has turned everything up on his head right now. So they've turned this into a race definitely to remember in the history books for PSGL. Greeny still managing to catch up to Will though, so Will finding it a little bit harder than as we thought it's going to be. So maybe the crossover point is now. Maybe Greeny's chance for the race victory is far from over potentially, as well, as Will starting to pull away again. Greeny seems to be getting time in sector 2, whereas Will seems to be getting a lot more time in sector 3 when he needs it, probably due to the fact that there's more corner and it's more like Silverstone compared to other tracks. I've got to say is, yeah, it is a shame for the retirements we're seeing at the moment, but the ones that are still going, fair play. Shapalili though, we haven't talked much about him. He could be on for getting his first points in PSGL on his first race.
Yeah, well, that's really good to see, actually, on the medium tyres as well. He has lost the position to Big C, who is running on the soft, but I would love to see Lucas getting the points here today, because he really does deserve it. He works really hard and he does a lot of practice, and sometimes he just comes up short in the races. He makes a lot of mistakes, unfortunately, but he has really rectified that today, and he's done so well. So I am proud of him as a friend of his, and it's good to see him in the top 10. Hopefully he and Pat can have a little bit of a fight, but they won't have any contact, I would hope.
I hope not either as well, but you see Big C pulling away just a little bit there. So, and Shapalili is on the cusp of being on tyres which are just past their sell-by date, but I know Shapalili could make it work towards the end there. Faz, 2 seconds behind Greeny. A little bit of a touch there, but this was his chance. Faz was gaining a lot in Sector 2, whereas Greeny was gaining less in Sector 2. So Faz, he hasn't got that long. He's got 2 more laps after this one to get the move on Greeny and then Will. I think the win is over for Faz. The question is he going to join Will in the top 2, or is he going to stay P3 for now? He's definitely going to be on the podium due to Dario's 5-second stop go penalty, but Faz is wondering where he's going to be after this. So, you know, he's going to be, I'm just trying to see what the gap is in the championship, but I will get the championship standings up in a minute after we've seen all these races unfold. But it's going to be close between Faz and Toxic, and it's really great to see as they're kissing that right-hand curb there very, very well. I don't know who's going to win this. This is going to be about a race of attrition on these final few laps. Who has put in the most practice in, who has managed their ERS well, and who has managed their tyres the best. That is going to be the person that's going to be winning this race today.
Yeah, at this point, I would say that the hard tyres and the softs are probably about even at the moment, because the tyre life is not going to be too much for these soft tyres at the moment. They've only got a couple more laps of actually running well. So the hard tyres have kind of phased in this Grand Prix, but Will is just so supreme on the exits of the roundabout and all the corners leading up to the DRS straight, and that has really helped him in this race. But he's just allowed for Greeny to stay within that 1 second window that he needs so Faz doesn't get by. He's had a really bad run through the hairpin. He's actually almost dropped out of DRS range of Greeny there. So bad run from Faz. That could be his race over.
I think it could be. He's still on the podium due to Dario's penalty, but yeah, I think the race, yeah, I've already said the race win is far from over. Yeah, he's out of DRS range now, unless someone makes a mistake. We have someone that just made a mistake. That's one of the passes. That was Hadler actually on the patch, I think it was, into turn after turn 10 and into turn 11. So yeah, Hadler's lost a little bit of time there, and he's not going to get any points, I don't think, unfortunately, unless people around him has got penalties. But we're on the final lap of this race. Greeny can still sense the wind from his fingers, but Will is trying his best for Greeny to get out of the DRS range. As soon as he's done that, the race victory is his. I think it's 9, well, pretty much 9 tenths, 8 tenths now. Greeny is catching. We could see the Haas definitely be the best start at the moment. I did say this earlier on about the crossover point. Greeny on DRS territory. Faz is back into DRS territory of Greeny. So Greeny is struggling, but Faz is thriving at the moment.
Yeah, well, at this moment in time, Faz just has to send when he can, and now using the DRS and the last bits of ERS, he is actually gaining on Greeny here. So now on the final lap of the race, Greeny's almost defenseless, and now Faz jumps to the outside line. This is for P2, and he's made the move into the hairpin. Greeny defenseless there, and if Faz made that one lap earlier, he could have been fighting Will for the win, but I think it could be game, set and match for the AlphaTauri driver.
Speaking of the AlphaTauri driver, here he comes through the final part of Sector 3 now. He's done all he can to try and get this win today. I never thought he was going to win, but he did in Belgium in the most challenging conditions. But it's been nothing of that today. It's been nice and sunny, and the season 23 F2 champion has come tops out of everyone. He comes across the line, he wins the Vietnamese Grand Prix. Faz takes P2. Another P2 after he got P3 last week, but Faz gets another podium. Greeny gets P3. Dario stays in P4 due to the... Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, because I think he was about 7 seconds clear of CC Brain now, like 10 seconds. So Dario's penalty did not make the difference there. Bugatti on his first race back in F2. P6, not bad. That is pretty good for the reigning F2 champion. Amotti in 7th. Big C in 8th. Tomato only gets 2 points out of all this, but Ciappellini, well done to him, getting his first points in F2. Even though it won't count towards the McLaren constructors, it will count towards his overall points. He does get a point. And speaking of points, actually, Luke hasn't scored a point this season, where as a reserve filling in for him has. So that is interesting.
Well, Luke, I don't know what he's done tonight, but he hasn't turned up. He probably did have a reason, because now they are obliged to give a reason, or they could be faced with either it's a ban or something like that.
I don't
know.
So
hopefully we do see him next week and he can get into the points for the first time this season. One of the only drivers yet to score a point, but it's good to see Chapelelli in the top 10. But it is even better to see PR1 Will winning the Grand Prix. Well done to Will Murdoch.
Will Murdoch is probably definitely getting used to tasting that champagne, I think, right now at the moment. And he always does it at the most difficult tracks. And the next one, Japan, it's kind of like a wheel track. So Will could be swinging in the shot again, but we'll have to wait and see. So the fastest lap, no one's going to get the fastest lap point this week because Lakitu stole it from everyone. 1:34.1. So, sorry guys, you're not going to get that extra point. And fair play, only 4 or 5 people got penalties this week. So, good job for a majority of you for keeping it clean. So we got Will from Fads, from Greeny, from Dario, from CC Brain, from Bugatti, from Mamotti, from Big C, from Tomato, and Chapelili is your final point score. Then we got Haller, Pat, and Lakitu being your last of the finishers. And your retirement, including disconnects, are Benny, Kurat, Name Changer, Skivan, Gonanen, Compassion, and Cedric. And that has been the Vietnam Grand Prix. And if I get the standings, I know it's from last week, if I get the standings up again, just doing a bit of math here. Oh, so the gap, I'm just trying to think. I think P2 gets 12 points, I believe. So that will put Faz on 64 points. Toxic Tomato only gets 2 points, so 68. So the gap has sort of closed in quite a lot here. Will's got 16 points, so that will put him 52 points, I believe. So that will put him ahead of Green just a little bit, and Green getting 51. So the championship has definitely intensified heading up to the last few rounds, and all it took was for Rafa to lead the league for the championship to be even closer. But it's sad for Rafa to lead the league, of course, but that just makes the championship even more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the fight has actually shifted so that Toxic Tomato is leading the championship, and now he has to fend off all of the challengers that have done so well in this season so far. They really have gained traction. They definitely settled in to the position that they're in, and I'd say that the pressure of actually being in F2, one of the top leagues on PS4, has kind of gone away. So now they're getting all comfortable, and we're going to see more fights to come.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I think that we're glad that we've been covering it for the whole season because it's been absolutely amazing to watch so far. And I think some people are going to be relieved that they can put the Vietnamese Grand Prix to bed unless they're chose to racing in the Trovo league, or in other leagues. We'll have to wait and see. But you know, it's been a lot of fun. We head to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix next week. I am very much looking forward to it. I think Dan is as well. But we still got some more races to come tonight. But thank you very much, Dan, for joining me as always.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to be here tonight, and it was a great race to watch.
And don't forget, there's still F1 and F3 still to come tonight. They're still, I think, approaching the end of their qualifying session. So make sure you give both of those streams a watch. That should be some very exciting races as well. I've been Jess Games 95. Dan has been V8 Field, and we will see you same time next week for the Japanese Grand Prix. Have a good evening. Goodbye.